My guest, Krista Nightingale, is the executive director of the Better Block. She began her career at the City magazine in Dallas, where she served as managing editor, executive director of a leadership group aimed at empowering citizens to take action, and executive director of a literacy nonprofit that united the city in reading together. She then served as chief of staff of the Coalition for a New Dallas, an advocacy organization aimed at reconnecting neighborhoods. Krista then helped launch Dallas Innovates, a new site that promotes Dallas Fort Worth as a hub of innovation. While covering the city, Krista became intrigued by the built environment. She joined the Better Block Foundation to help with its growth, spread its story, and make the world a little better by showing communities how wonderful walkable and bikeable districts are. So far, she has worked with 75 cities around the world, and today we are going to learn from her experience. Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I am Asban Sari, the founder of the organization Peacemakers Pakistani, and I am bringing you the stories of placemakers, artists, and professionals from around the globe about how they created an impact and made change happen. You are listening to the Making It Happen show. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Krista. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm excited to be on here with you and to talk to you a little bit about placemaking and Better Block and all the similarities we all have.
Yes, I just love when people say yes to the interview, and I just look forward to talking to them and to know about them, and then I dream about the future work we are going to do together, inshallah.
Great.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with the questions because I can't wait anymore. Okay, so how did you find your passion for and interest in built environment, urban design, architecture, and everything about cities?
Yeah, so my background is actually in journalism. And so I worked at our city magazine here in Dallas, Texas for about 8 years. And during that time, I was a writer, an editor, and just kind of worked on content for the magazine. And about a few years into that, an urban planner started talking about this idea of tearing down a highway that was connecting or technically separating two different communities. And that was the first time that I looked at how urban planning and design was used to really segregate our cities and what kind of impact that was having on our cities today. And it seemed like such a big issue that I thought, how could someone like me, who has a journalism degree, who knows nothing about urban design, how could I even go about impacting these sorts of things? I knew about Better Block because we had been covering them in the magazine and had written several stories about them. And Better Block at that time, it was all about just taking community members and going out and making the changes that folks wanted to see. It was under the umbrella of tactical urbanism. So just going out and making it happen. And I thought, that's such a great way to go about this because who knows better about their place than the community members who live there? And what a great way to get community members and to empower them to go out to make those changes. So the Better Block started hiring some folks, and I, threw my name in the hat and said, hey, I'd like to come along and kind of see what we could do here. And was hired on about 7 years ago. And I have been working in this world of urban planning, design, community building, all the things for the past 7 years. And it's been a fascinating journey over that time.
That is superb, and I'm glad that you joined because now we are talking, now we are connected because of it. Okay, so tell me about the Better Block Foundation and its vision and the projects so far that you have been involved in.
Yeah, so the Better Block, we are an urban design nonprofit, and we are based out of Dallas, Texas. But we do work kind of all over the world. So mainly focused in America, working in a bunch of different cities here. But we've done some projects in Canada. We did last summer a project in Dublin, Ireland. We've done a little bit of work in Europe. And then this year we have our first Australian project in Perth. So what we do is we have a 120-day process where we work with the community to understand the needs in the area, to understand what changes people would like to see. And then after we have done some listening, some surveying and some feedback, we take that, we put together a design kind of concept. And then we've got about 2 months where we work through all the permitting, all the barriers. We put together, fabrication and what a transformation of a space could actually look like. While my team is working on kind of the policy stuff and the insurance and all that stuff, the community members are bringing the heart and soul to the project with the food and the entertainment and the music and what exactly it's going to look like. Then we basically do a transformation over the course of about 4 days. And then we have this big event where we get people to come to the space. And it looks like it's just an event and it's just this fun thing, but really we're trying to get people there to experience the space and see what this changed space could look like. So when we're looking at spaces and, where this transformation might take place, we focus on a block space. So just looking in really close at one area. And there are 4 things we look for when we're looking at doing a project. The first thing are the streets. And we ask, are these streets serving the people who live here, or are they serving passing through traffic? And if they're simply serving passing through traffic, is there a way that we can reallocate space from the cars to the people to make this space a more vibrant, more walkable, better spot? The second thing we look for is the commercial activity in the area. Is there are there small businesses there? And if so, how are they doing? If they're not doing extremely well, is there anything that we can do to help them better engage the sidewalk, better engage the streets to have people coming in? If there aren't small businesses, are there community members who would like the idea of being able to be a business there? And would they like to pop up for the demonstration and test out some of their concepts and their ideas? And is that something that could be made something that they could do going forward? The third and most important thing we look for is community members. So are there people there who are frustrated by the lack of change over the years? Are there people there who are concerned about the amount of change that's coming to their area? How organized are they? And can we work with them to get them more organized? While we're working with the community, we also work very closely with municipalities, city staff, elected officials, and kind of working with them to understand what the process has been with the community in the past, what does it look like, and kind of bring them together so that they are working together. They've gone through this project together, this very fast, very high stress project. And they tend to bond through that just a bit. And that helps kind of looking toward the future. And then the fourth thing we look for is how permanent could the changes we're proposing actually be? So a lot of times when we're doing these projects, we do work under the umbrella of temporary. We find that temporary erases the fear of permanency. It allows us to test things just a little bit more, push a little bit harder, push a little bit farther, and really give folks a chance to actually live in these changed places and then give their feedback. So, but when we're doing that, we're looking to, could this actually be something that is made more permanent? And what would that look like? For that reason, we generally do not shut streets down to traffic 100% because that's usually not going to be realistic. That's not something that can be done all the time. So what we really want to do is show you can have a better space if you just reallocate and rethink the way the space is being used currently. And for most of the cities that we're working in, that's looking at how do we change the equation of car space to people space.
Okay, that's great because it's an awesome strategy and it's quite doable. And it's, of course, it requires a great team for that as well because mostly you guys are facilitating people and the community members to make their spaces better and the connection. And of course, the part of collaborating and bringing people together, that's the most struggling part, I believe. And I would really love to know that how do you cope with that? How do you face that challenge and bring people together into their areas, to contribute to their community? How do you do that?
Oh, how do we organize community members? So a lot of what we do is simply following through on what we say we're going to do. So, a lot of times the communities that we are working with have been over-surveyed, they've been over-promised, and under-delivered on. And so there is a lack of trust, which rightly so. So when someone comes in and says, hey, we're going to make these changes, we're going to do these things, we have to follow through on that. And that is probably the biggest thing that we can do. I would say too, that our 120-day process, it is so fast and it goes by so quickly. It's very stressful, but then you have a quick win at the end. So you've got this goal that everyone's kind of dredging through and making their way to. And then it's this really beautiful moment when it all comes together and they get to kind of take a step back and say, like, I did that. I was a part of that. And that is something that really brings people together. So the better block should never be the end of anything. It is really just the first, maybe the second step. And the goal is that we're just kind of lighting this fire to where the community can then be a bit more organized, have a few more tricks up their sleeves, and be more connected to the folks who can get some of those things done more permanently.
Great. Okay, so this was very inspiring, and I've learned things myself. And these things were very strategized, and strategically it is very focused. So I love the part. Okay, so tell me about Dallas, and you are very passionate about its betterment. So share your attachment story to it.
Oh, Dallas is an interesting place, as most cities are. There are days where I'm very excited about this city, and then there are days where it breaks my heart. But I will say I've been here for about 15 years. I moved here thinking I would be here for a year or two tops, and then I was moving anywhere else. And the thing about Dallas that I love is its people. And I found that from the very beginning that people were very willing to sit down and take a meeting, have a coffee, discuss what the future of the city could look like. It is a place where you can get involved pretty quickly, and you can put out some pretty out there ideas, and you will find other people who are willing to rally around that and work toward making that change. That being said, I would hope that we would have seen more change over the past 15 years as it relates to creating more walkable cities, adding more bike lanes, doing things that create, safer spaces. And there's a lot of work that we can be doing here at home, and a lot more that we can be doing. But it is a beautiful place because of its people.
Very sweet. Okay, so you have worked with 75 cities around the world, and that's a great number. So, what has been your experience so far, and any key lessons that you would like to share?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. I would say, just based on some recent experiences, what I see in America is that when it comes to this type of work, there are community members who are really fighting for it and wanting to make the changes. And in some places, we've got some ordinances and some things in place that prevent people from actually being able to make these changes. So there's a lot of bureaucracy that stops a lot of it from happening. In places like Australia and New Zealand, they actually, from the bureaucracy standpoint, from the municipality standpoint, they do a lot of this work, which is really amazing. But they're missing some of that community piece of it, which means the community doesn't feel as much ownership over it. So it's this really fascinating kind of two different issues in these two different places on either end, and it's kind of this meeting in the middle. But I am always fascinated by just how the issues that come from being auto-centric spaces and from building spaces for cars are somewhat universal. And no matter where we are, if the space is designed for the car, we're going to be facing some of the same challenges and working on some of the same issues. And we're not as different as maybe, we think we are when it comes to our spaces, and especially if they're designed for the car. Another big lesson learned for me has been a lot of the communities that we work with have been told they live in bad places. They live in places that have a lot of crime and no one would want to come here. And this is a bad part of town. And through our process, I think it's a gentle reminder to folks that they have beautiful spaces, they have beautiful neighbors, and it's an opportunity for them to really celebrate the beauty that they do have in their neighborhood. And it's a really great way for people to kind of have that perception shift from it being this really bad place to actually know it's kind of lovely.
And yes, and that's the beauty of being a leader or an public space advocate to, making people realize that their places are good already. We just need to make them a little better, or maybe we just need to take care of them somewhat. Okay, so the quality of public spaces impact our health, especially mental health. Do you agree with that, and how would you support it?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm probably stealing an answer from later on, another question that you have, but I do think the mental health aspect of public spaces is huge. And that's really our goal, is to create these spaces where people can just be and just have that moment and have that space. And, a lot of times in the work that we're doing, we are asked, well, what happens if someone destroys the space? Or the big concern here is what happens if someone who's homeless comes in and destroys the space? And we always tell people that we build for love and not for fear. And the idea behind that is that we want to create a space that's for the community, whomever that community may be, and give them that opportunity to be there in that space. And so if someone just needs a chair to sit down in and have a little bit of art around them and just enjoy that, if we can in any way provide that, then that's what we want to do. So I think it's, public space plays a huge role in both mental health and physical health, and just creating these environments that we not only want to live in, but make us live a bit longer and healthier.
Yes, and that also showcased that a compassionate being can think through it. And when the leaders are compassionate, they will create better places. And that's the factor we are lacking here. That's the quality we are lacking a lot of times. Okay, so you have started your career as executive director of a leadership group aimed at empowering citizens to take action. That's very mind blowing, because it's been my major concern as well. I wanted to empower people and to inspire them to take action themselves, rather than just waiting around for the government to take action or for anyone else to do it rather than themselves. So, are there any key lessons that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think, for a lot of folks, myself included, when I thought about, oh, the street's too fast, but I had studied journalism. What do I know about shutting down a street or slowing down a street? I found that just talking to the powers that be and asking them questions and kind of going out there and talking with my neighbors. One, you're not alone. Other people are also thinking the same thing and wanting also to find a way to address it. And then two, there are folks who will help you do this and who are interested in the same thing. They just may not have the capacity to actually go out and address it. And so if you can find a way to do that, that's how it's amazing. We've also found that when you raise your hand and say, hey, I want to address this, I want to help with this, people will take you up on it. So do not, be afraid to be that person to say, this is an issue that matters to me. I want to help address it, because people will take you up on that offer. And that is something, that you should do. As far as being on the other side and trying to empower folks, a lot of it is just letting people go do it. I think the biggest thing that you could always do in any of this work is just simply do it. Go out there and make it happen. I know that we over here love to meet. We love to overanalyze. We love to contemplate every single what if that there could possibly be. And that tends to create this analysis paralysis where nothing happens. So just actually going out and taking that first step and, picking up a paintbrush and painting a bike lane, and that will inspire others and bring other folks along as well and get you closer to that goal.
Great. That was the simplest advice. And when I think about it, that is true. It is really true. Okay, so let's move on to the rapid fire questions that I ask everyone. Okay, so what drives you? What keeps you focused?
The communities we get to work with keep us going. And it's always, we have so much fun, and we get to come up with these really out there ideas about how we might be able to address something. But while our team loves coming up with ideas, we love more so hearing from the community, some of their ideas and their thoughts and what drives them. And so really being able to create some change in a short amount of time and let folks experience what that can feel like that's the best thing.
Okay, and would you like to share any moment that made you proud of your work?
Yeah. So the moment that is probably the most impactful to me was, I don't even remember. It was a few years ago. And we had built this parklet in the middle of a park here in Dallas. And it was part of a conference. So we had some volunteers coming in and they were kind of hanging out with us. And this volunteer and we started talking, and we were there for several hours. So we got through the surface level stuff and started really talking about life stuff. And we started talking about health. And I had been having some health issues, and we were kind of talking about it. And she told me, when I was your age, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease called dermatomyositis. And my jaw dropped because for a year and a half, I had been having all these health issues. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I'd been to all the doctors. And 1 week prior to that meeting, I was diagnosed with dermatomyositis. And I didn't know anything about the disease at that moment in time, except that there were only 9 cases out of 1 million people. And somehow this woman and I were sitting on this parklet in the middle of a park in the middle of Dallas, Texas. And we were, 2 of the 9 out of 1 million people, and we both had the disease. And it was the first time in several years, in a year and a half at least, that I had hope, because I watched her. And as we were talking, she was able to move her hands, which was something I was struggling with. She could get up out of a chair pretty easily, which was something I could not do. She had energy. She told me she was off her medication. All of these things that I just didn't think would be possible. I was seeing her live it out. And for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I might be okay. And it was a really good, for me, it was a really good example of what this work can be and what it can mean for folks, because she and I just happened to bump into each other, and then we just had conversations, and then that led to me having this hope. So with this work, I don't think it's necessarily going to change the world, but it could change someone's world, and so that's kind of a driving force behind a lot of what we do.
Oh, that's sweet. I hope you are well now. I hope you have understood your condition and you're coping with it very well. I hope so. And it just made me feel like it was a blessing or a gift from God to you for your work, the work you are doing. Okay, so would you like to share any struggling moment of your work life?
Oh boy.
There are many, of course.
So every project we do has a struggle. Let me think about it. We always see barriers, and because we work so quickly, those barriers come up really fast. And one project that we did this past year, we couldn't figure out why the community kept saying they weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do, or why they weren't able to activate in the way they wanted to. They were organized, they had great ideas. It should have all been there, and yet something was holding them back. So as we went through the process and as we worked with them, we realized it was a special event permitting process that was unnecessarily difficult. It was so intense. It was so hard. And what we ended up doing is putting together 11 pages of notes, and we handed it to a designer, and we asked them to illustrate the process. And what they put together was this jumbled mess of like all these things and all these steps, and it really doesn't make sense, and you don't know where to start or where to end, but that's exactly what the process felt like. And so we talked with the city about it, and we said, listen, this is what we're going through. This is why the community hasn't been able to activate. Can we work on something? And they, to their credit, they listened. They were amazing. They ended up hiring more people for that department. They're changing the portal that people have to use to apply. And so really addressing some of those issues. I think in every case we could do more and kind of push a little bit harder, but we do see a lot of those barriers. And then we try to figure out, okay, what led to it and how can we help address some of the concerns that the community has.
Great. I love to ask this question to people because it helps me learn ways to have hope, and also to know that people have struggled but they have come out of it, and it was a great learning experience. So it keeps me moving. Okay, would you like to share any favorite placemaking mantra or any mantra that works for you best?
Yeah. So one thing that we talk about all the time is parking. Everyone wants more parking. So we actually have a shirt that says it's hard to find parking in great places. The idea behind that is the places we love to go are designed for us and not for our cars. And so what happens is these places become so popular that then people are like, well, we need more parking to accommodate all the people. Well, then you start adding more parking and you kill the reason why people even wanted to go there. So we try to always work with folks on thinking about, okay, instead of adding more parking, are there other ways people can get to the space? How can we be more accommodating elsewhere and still keeping the thing that makes people want to go to there?
Right. Okay. Okay. Do you want to share your opinion about placemaking in Pakistan or Pakistan generally?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this because I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know much. Okay. But one thing we were kind of discussing as a team is it seems like, and I could be wrong because I'm just making an assumption here, but it does seem like the Middle East is kind of car centric, like America is as well. And so I'm assuming that we face a lot of the same issues with, overbuilt streets and, the fight around parking and all of that. And I think with the work that you all are doing and just kind of looking at how can we kind of hold on to the spaces that are dear to people and, make sure that, we're reallocating some of these spaces back to the people. What does that look like? So, just kind of like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of similarities there and kind of looking at how do we rethink that space. And I'm excited to see that your organization is there and the work that you all are working on. So it's not easy, but definitely keep at it and it will continue to make a difference.
Yes, yes, I hope so. And I've seen the rapid increase in in our society, in our country, and in our cities, majorly towards the car-centric development. It was not there before, but it has started recently, and I really wish that we hold on to it as quick as possible. Okay, so lastly, would you like to share any advice to the young professionals joining in?
My only advice, and it's so cheesy, but my only advice is, like I said earlier, just do it. Just go out there and make that change that you've been thinking about or talking about with your neighbors. Bring your neighbors with you and have some fun as you go and just make the world a little more beautiful.
Great. Thank you so much, Krista. It was lovely talking to you. I have enjoyed so much. And indeed, it was amazing. And you are amazing leader. Thank you for the work you are doing. I look forward to learning from you more in the future. So stay connected and take care of yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Same here. Bye-bye.
Bye.